Today we have yet another scandal sponsored by Zelensky for you. It's called the Ukrainian International Legion. Hi and welcome to the New World Order with me, Atul Mishra. Let's begin. US and European countries have poured billions of dollars in aid and weapons to the war as a bait to instigate Russia. After Sweden and Finland ditched NATO, it is that in the army general. However, the puppet king, consumed by power and fear When it comes to corruption, you can bet no one can beat Ukrainian politicians and administration. When the Russia-Ukraine war started, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky created the International Legion of Ukraine, consisting of foreign citizens wishing to join the resistance against the Russian occupants and fight for global security. For this, Zelensky stressed the rationale that Ukraine needs additional fighters because the passion and vigor of Ukrainians are not just enough to defeat the Russian aggression. Since its inception, the Legion has been making rounds in global news, demonstrating bravery in defeating the Russian military. More than 100,000 fighters had joined the Legion as per Ukraine data. But everything gets a reality check sooner or later. The myth of Legion is out. It has come out to be an utter failure, another ghost of Kiev. According to a media report by New York Times, the Ukrainian government lied every time while sharing data and statistics about the Ukrainian Legion. Reportedly, the true number of recruits that signed up for Ukraine's International Legion is far smaller than the figure officials in Kiev claimed. Rather, some of the most high-profile mercenaries use their position to lie and profiteer from the conflict. Within the first week of its inception, Ukrainian military intelligence chief Kirill Budanov had announced that 20,000 recruits had applied to join the newly formed International Legion. But now, as per the revealed data, just wait for it, 1,500 members are currently enrolled, and further, internal documents show that the Legion is struggling. Most of those who enrolled themselves in the International Legion were Americans. The retired American officials believed that they would bring military experience, money, or supplies to the battleground of a righteous war. Western newspapers celebrated the commitment of these volunteer groups to the war effort when they first emerged and generously donated millions of dollars in support. Unfortunately, after a year of combat, many of these homespun organizations have become detrimentally embroiled in internal rifts. Had to happen. Reports have surfaced that many recruits have squandered funds or have impersonated military personnel, whilst others have masked their intentions to make a profit under the veil of charity. War is all about money, folks. The US federal government is even conducting an investigation into a retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel from Virginia who is suspected of illegally exporting military tech. In addition, a former army soldier defected to Russia after arriving in Ukraine, and a Connecticut man lied about his military service and posted live updates from the battlefield, some Instagram chap or Twitter guy, including his exact location as well as bragging about his easy access to brand new American weapons. Show off. The most renowned case to explain the intensity of corruption is the case of Emiz Fajak, a renowned Australian TV star. Emiz Fajak, aged 30, fled Australia after allegedly using the fake ANZ bank slips to win the $4.2 million reality TV show auction in December 2020. $4.2 million, folks. After allegedly ripping off her landlord and boyfriend on a Portuguese island in 2021, she popped up in July as communications director for the Ukrainian Foreign Legion with the call sign Mockingjay, Hunger Games. And guess what? She conned the Grand Master con man, Volodymyr Zelensky himself. That's right, the Security Service of Ukraine, or the SBU, accused Fajak of stealing money from the Legion as well as medical supplies valued at millions of dollars that were meant for Ukrainian soldiers. She was reportedly involved in laundering of a massive $2.5 million worth of US shipment of medical supplies and siphoning off international donations intended for Kiev's war effort. The medical supplies, which arrived in late October and included painkillers like the lethal opioid fentanyl, never made it to the front lines. Considerable efforts to locate the supplies were made, but all in vain. She's also been caught on a secret recording admitting she routinely utilized the funds in this account for personal profit. It is actually quite surprising to see that almost every third man is able to ridicule the Ukrainian machinery so easily. But Russia is the bad guy here, remember. No doubt all those mocking the war for their personal profits are wrong, but they can't be more wrong than Ukrainian authorities who have literally kept no check on the legion. The International Legion, hastily formed by the Ukrainian government, spent just 10 minutes or less checking each volunteer's background early in the war. Sometimes OTPs take more time to come to our mobile screens, which meant that even a Polish fugitive who had been jailed in Ukraine for weapon violations could easily get a position for leading the troops. This indeed is a large-scale corruption that is unmonitored and unprecedented. Many selfless and heroic volunteers have rushed to Ukraine, some of whom have made the ultimate sacrifice. They have given up their lives. Foreigners have risked their lives to save civilians, treat the injured, and fight alongside fellow Ukrainians. Furthermore, some have raised funds for essential supplies. However, Europe's biggest war since 1945 does not pick and choose between trained volunteers and those without the necessary skills or even discipline to help effectively. Corruption is gulping them all down. Back in May 2022, we at TFI had already predicted that in the midst of the war, Ukraine's corruption problem will escalate into an all-out disaster. We foresaw that any progress made against corruption would be reversed, leaving the country in an even more deplorable quagmire of maleficence. As it turns out, our predictions were right on the mark. The Ukrainian situation has become the most disheartening example of corruption and inhuman war profiteering. We had only assumed that corruption was limited to the officials in Kiev, but it has become evident that much of the money provided by foreign countries to sustain the war effort is being misused and laundered by corrupt politicians, associates, and now even by the third foreign parties. It is a sad mockery of the entire system, and that needs to be punished. But will that be punished? That's a very ideal situation we are talking about.